It's a simplistic joke, but I still get a kick whenever we hear Ariane's like full title, like how, Ariane Maple, she's from like the Great Kanda Forest. Still an amusing joke, though I've seen it now in this anime a few times. It still brings a grin to my face when it pops up. But this was an episode that definitely got my mind racing in ways I really don't remember feeling quite like this anyway, when it comes to kind of like fantasy isekai style shows. Because the idea of not only just your main character potentially being involved in the isekai phenomenon, that's something that we see a fair amount. May not be half the time, but getting pretty damn close there anyway when you compare how many new shows are coming out. But I think what this episode did that made it feel so different is that rather than just making, we learn other characters have potentially been thrown into this world, not just Arc, it's not a first time thing, but instead of making it like super relevant in the way that said character who also got isekai'd is now going to be a new ally or opponent or someone he's gonna meet. They say no. 600 years ago, there was a man who made a ninja clan, and very much based on the names that he gave people and things like that, it very much is under the suspicion that he was from Japan like Arc, and therefore was also thrown into this world. And I think the idea that this world is most likely built and shaped around isekai protagonists in their own little stories is pretty interesting, because for all we know, we might never meet anyone else who was isekai'd into this world, right? Most likely, based on anyway what we're seeing right now, there very well could be a chance that the only characters Arc will meet are people born into this world, not thrown into it like he was. And if that's the case, that's pretty interesting, because over the course of his journey, he's probably going to meet different clans, or meet different people, hear about a historical person, or maybe he'll hear about someone long in the distance that he'll never cross paths with. But in doing so, because there's now the precedent that more than just him, who came from Japan, modern ideas, modern values, the way games should work but no longer is simply just a game, very much Arc isn't the only one who can massively shape this land into changing. As we saw with last week's episode with the Resurrection, it was very much established like that's going to have repercussions, good or bad, and as most people are assuming, that girl is going to assume that she was raised from the dead by God's chosen angel, and therefore she's going to think that she's the chosen one. That's going to have long-term ramifications, and 600 years from now, I wouldn't doubt it if Arc has his own little legend being spewed about him, about how there was this wandering golden knight in shining armor who helped all the people and made Queen this and that sit on the throne, and that caused the rebellion or this or that, right? That's such a more interesting idea for an isekai story than simply saying, we heard about another isekai character and now he's your rival or your love interest or your best friend or the king. Because there could be people that he meets up with who just so happens to be from Japan or other walks of life, other countries from his world. But the idea that it could just be people who shape the history into what it currently is, as we're now witnessing the next person who's doing just that, is pretty damn fascinating if you ask me. And that's the type of stuff I look for in these shows, because you get so many of them. Even though you can enjoy the bare bones basic ones, the things that are going to stick with you or you're going to want to talk with others week by week are shows like Scalp Tonight, because they know what they're doing with this premise and it really doesn't feel like it's trying to be so-and-so show. And even when it's not making my mind expand thinking about the long-term effects, I can sit back and enjoy Ariane and Arc's casual banter as they're eating grub and having a grand old time, playing off previous jokes like the dragonflies, or just really appreciating how comfortable Ariane now is with a skeleton, right? Something you never would have expected, at least not this quickly, but given how much he's helped her, how much he's trusted in her, it's no surprise that they feel like best friends at this point. I also love the fact that when we meet up with our furry-eared ninjas, kind of like best mate here, you know, I had the suspicion they would fight. I just wasn't expecting how close of bros they would become after they both tested each other's strength, and how, you know, if there's any need for adult supervision, I think these two together alone symbolizes why we need another adult present, because they're too powerful. Like, Arc's kind of like the guy who needs professional training, right? Like, as we saw with Ariane's mother, she wiped the floor with him because she's properly skilled with swordplay. Just because he played a game and hit a couple of keys, now that he's a part of this world, he doesn't actually know how to properly swing a sword. He's just very powerful. He's just like, a very strong child in a candy shop, but it's not like he's gonna be able to navigate trained soldiers when they say put the candy down, right? But the fact that he still can get through certain situations, especially when he's with another brute force character, and the way they amplified each other's magic and attacks there. I mean, talk about abs of steel at one point. The dude literally was breaking knives with his abs, and then he launches all these spikes, and just, it was some fun stuff across the board. Like, that's what I love about this show, is that it's goofy, it's silly, it can be mature at times, and then, honestly, the past few episodes, the way they're really making me more interested in the past content, the history of their world, but also the future, like the long-term effects of reviving someone who's now going to think she's the chosen one. Or the fact of the matter is, this is a man who constantly says, hey, it's me, Ark here, I'm living a casual life, and he's doing anything as such. And I feel like there's probably a lot of people who used to be in Ark's position, thinking they're not doing much, but actually shaped history to be what it is, good and bad alike. And as we are getting the hints at in this episode, even though they didn't, officially confirm it, I mean, Ark thinks and believes it, but it's not like we have a history book to 100% confirm these thoughts. But it seems like a likely bet, right? Certain people made clans. They shaped with modern Japan values to create what a ninja is. And clearly, only an Outer Worlder or someone a part of her clan would know those details, and that's a really cool addition to an already impressive story. I mean, at this point, I already want a season 2. It's really sad to think that we're 2/3 of the way through this show, because unlike a lot of shows that, you kind of have a good suspicion of what it's going to be, in the case of this, it's going to be an Overlord clone, or it's just going to be a goofy comedy, but man, like, seriously, I loved it from episode 1, but the past few episodes have really changed my tune in being like, I'm so interested in the world as much as I'm interested in our goofy skeleton boy and what's going to happen with his skeleton body down the line, sort of a thing. I'm glad that the furry-haired ninja is now kind of like a part of the cast in some way, even if temporarily. I mean, she was obviously an interesting character to begin with, and for a man who's all about, like, embracing that otaku dream, that gamer wet dream there, the fact that he's also envious of, like, the historical man, just completely living the dream, being remembered hundreds of years later, as he crafted the ultimate otaku dream of just, creating ninjas and stuff like that. The dude's cute as shit, man. He's violent, he can be intimidating, but he's an adorable skeleton, and I love it when anime makes skeletons adorable. It's something that shouldn't be adorable, but I mean, whether it's the bookseller skeleton show that came out a while back, a few years ago, it was like a little slice of life, or even Skeleton Knight, man, with Ark. It's adorable sometimes, and it works. But thoughts, if you have any on this week's episode, theories, if you got any on where it might go in the future, leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. Till next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.